One of the great things about being an old codger like me is you get the opportunity to meet young people who are coming and going in their life and who are very exciting. I've had the pleasure of knowing this young lad for a couple of years. I'm going to try and pronounce his name. His name is Dr. Koliya Wedanage, and I'm delighted to say welcome to Inspiring Careers.
Thanks for having me, John.
Now, we've known each other for about 3.5, 4 years, and we hit it off straight away when we met, right?
Yeah.
I will ask you a question, completely politically incorrect, right? Are there many double degree, PhD, AI gurus floating around Australia who also played rugby for their university?
None that I know of, apart from me, I guess.
You've got such an interesting background, and this young lad has got such a warm style about him. It's an absolute pleasure for me to bring him on. As I said, I think he's a young lad that's a generational talent. What we're going to do today is talk about his career. And we're going to talk about his new company. And I'm going to let you give yourself a plug to start with, right? Tell us about your new company.
So it's called Codera. So we help businesses to appear across LLMs and AI search. So we've built like a specific algorithm that just helps us diagnose the digital presence of any business across LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and also like AI search across like Perplexity, Google AI search, and whatnot. And we'll just not just give like diagnosis report. We'll help people, like help businesses to improve its digital visibility by doing the groundwork that requires to improve the visibility. So we've got like two additional pillars that comes along with the product, which is called Content Hub and Social Studio, which can integrate to your socials as well as some content that you just need to publish throughout your website.
Yes.
And that's going to be optimized for AI to read. So it's much more easier for you to improve your digital presence using Codera ISO. So that's what we do at Codera.
Excellent. Now, you are talking to a guy who sadly is a Luddite, but I'm getting into the fast lane now, both with your coaching, Martin's coaching my kids, etc. Let me ask you this question. When a business doesn't know what to do with AI, but they hear a lot of people talking about it, what's your advice for them to start with? We'll talk about businesses, we'll talk about people, but there just seems to be a lack of clarity. Try and give us some good advice today in terms of, don't panic, lads, do this. What's the first thing somebody needs to do before they approach you guys even?
Yeah, I mean, everyone is just super excited about AI and they really want to do something that just goes with AI or along the lines of AI, but they're not really thinking of what sort of a value it actually creates for the business.
Yes.
Right? And one of the biggest issue there is they're not really starting from the pain points. And when I say pain points, you just need to look into a business and try and understand what are the absolute painful problems that I have that AI could solve, or at least AI could just help me improve the situation around that problem.
Yes.
Which will create some sort of a significant benefits toward the business and which will help the business to create some value using that AI. So sometimes when you look into problems, you don't even need AI to start with, right? But people think, okay, I just need AI because everyone uses AI.
Yes.
And I need to do XYZ using AI. But I just don't really agree with that approach. I would say just take a step back, look into what sort of a problem that you're just trying to solve and see whether AI could actually help you to solve that problem or not. Sometimes you don't really need AI to solve problems at all. So you just need to look into the problem, try and understand if you solve this problem, what sort of a value it will create within the business, and then just try and figure out how AI could efficiently and effectively do it for you. Sometimes AI might not be the answer, sometimes AI might be the answer, but instead of just following the trend as everyone does, I would recommend to take a step back, look into the broader picture, look into how AI could actually help business solve some sort of a painful problem. So with Codera, we solve a painful problem, which is the visibility problem.
Yes. Now, let me ask you this then on that, and then I want to talk about your career because I don't want people, with me boring them about AI for 2 hours, considering I don't know a lot about it. Do you have to do a re-education process with a lot of clients? They must have perceptions about it because of the stuff that, I'm going to say the garbage, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Is it a re-education process to start with?
Yeah, give or take, I would say. Some people have a really good understanding because they're just following what's going on in the field. But I think as a technical person, one of the biggest hurdles that I have actual experience is explaining these entire technical things to to a non-technical person in the way that they would understand, right?
Yes.
So, and you have to make it tangible because we're talking about transformers, pre-trained transformers, attention networks, LLMs, AI agents, MCP servers, and for a normal person or for a general person, that would just go over your head, right? So,
yes.
So we just have to sort of explain the value of AI without really jumping too much into the technical side of things.
Yes.
And explain the value it creates for a business. So there's a learning curve for, us as technical individuals, because how to communicate this thing to a non-technical person in the way that they understand.
Yes.
That's a learning curve for us. And obviously for a non-technical person or for a business owner, they have to try and understand how this new AI or new AI era tools can help my business do XYZ functions, right?
Now, I'm going to look at the camera again, not because I'm a film star, I'm far from it. What I would say for all our young people, because my son and I are building our career guidance channel, which is targeted young graduates. From my perspective, it is absolutely wonderful to meet a young lad who's so warm, such a great communicator, and also such a great technical mind as well. And therefore, I do want to talk to him about your career. Let me ask you this. Has your career been important to you?
Very important. I think
Yes.
That's probably like the most important thing apart from my family,
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Take us on the journey. How did it all get started?
So I was born in Sri Lanka. So I was born into a poor household. I would say lower middle class. Lower middle class in Sri Lanka is like nowhere near lower middle class in Australia.
It's the streets of Northern Ireland stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
So
and excuse my ignorance, and once again, I'm going to get deeply personal.
Yeah.
Did you get scholarships to go to uni? How did you end up getting to uni then with that background?
Yeah. So my mom was just a superstar, and she was just pushing me to do education, but I was not that person. I was just more of an athlete, I would say. I love to play cricket. I love to play soccer. I will
add that he actually played rugby for his university, and he was a prop, which is why, and he's got an obsession with the Wallabies. That's why we had to wear rugby jerseys for this show. I just want to show off that this guy is a good sportsman as well. Is there anything he can't do? Yeah. So, true or false?
Yeah.
You did 2 degrees at the same time.
Yeah. So, then my mom was pushing me a lot to do studies. And then in Sri Lanka, we have something called O-levels and A-levels. It's quite similar to like the British.
The UK system.
Yeah, the
I'm
UK
very
system.
aware of it.
So it's called ordinary level exams and advanced level
Cambridge
exams.
Board, etc. Yeah.
So I did quite well in O-levels, and then I did maths, physical sciences for A-levels, and it was good enough for me to walk into the state university. So that was a full scholarship to walk into the state university. But in Sri Lanka, you have like a gap year. Once you finish your advanced levels, you have to wait about a year to get into the state university. So I didn't really want to wait. So I wanted to do something. So I just convinced my father, and my father was just abroad at that time. And I said, I'll just work somehow and then just find some money. But I want to do a private university degree as well, which is specialized in computer science or IT or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had that passion for it. And I just somehow convinced my father. So I was doing tuitions, like private tutoring to A-level, O-level students, and then earning some extra cash on the side, and then supporting myself to go to the private university, and then I just got into the state university as well. So when I went to state university, I was already in the second year of my private university, so I had to juggle between both degrees when I was doing first, second, and third years in the state university, and second, third, and last year in the private university. So that was a challenge in time, and first I had to adapt myself. how to how to get through the education system. And I was a kid, right? So yeah, and then I was playing rugby and doing tutoring and lots of things.
Oh no, you're a very
just
busy man.
just rewinding the past.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, you go to uni. Did anybody? And I'm not being sycophantic. Did anybody at uni see that you were a shining star? What was your first gig out of uni? And I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you.
During the uni, I mean, I think the first couple of years I actually struggled a little bit.
Okay.
Because I was doing 2 university degrees and my results was okay, like above average, but not the best.
Yeah.
And then I struggled a little bit, but I was really good with doing projects and trying to solve problems, sort of stuff. So at that time, I was doing some freelancing stuff for a couple of clients and a couple of overseas people at that time. And I was doing all that from Sri Lanka, right? So I was just trying to earn some extra cash and doing all that. And then what picked my mind mostly was the last year research at the private university. So I just wanted to do something really good because that determines like half of your GPA.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something good. So that's how I sort of like kicked off the passion that I just had to data and computer science and everything.
That's it. No. So therefore, were you working when you got into your PhD? I'm curious as to how that journey began. Because you ended up in Australia then.
Yeah. So what happens there? I was really good at like this research.
Yeah.
And I was the top of the class.
Yeah.
So among 600 plus students, and my supervisor back in Sri Lanka recommended me to my supervisor over here. And then we had a quick chat, and then he said, okay, come over here and then I'll just get you a full scholarship.
Yeah.
So that was the that's how I just ended up in Australia. So I never really planned to do a PhD or anything. I was fine in Sri Lanka. I wasn't really thinking much back then. I was a kid, I guess. But yeah, eventually I was like, why wouldn't I take this opportunity? Then I was 24 when I came here. And so that was a fully funded scholarship given from the Australian government and from the university collaboratively.
And I think from memory, and I'm going in the archives here. Did you not work on a very large project for government as well in relation to social media?
Yeah.
So tell everybody about that. I can't, I know I'm sort of fishing here, but I seem to remember that was a great project you worked on.
Yeah. Yes, that was sometime after I finished my PhD. So you probably have heard the Australia banned social media for under 16 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So it's safe to say that Australian kids don't like me anymore.
Why? Because you stopped them, did you? Yeah. Did you create the gateways or something? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was the work package lead for the evaluation criteria. So I worked with the government and people from the parliament and the senate, and then also people from social media like Facebook, Meta, and then TikTok. Just had interviews with these people. So mainly what we did there was I was creating evaluation criteria for age assurance technology trial. So which means what we wanted to do was just create a safer environment for Australian kids to go to social media. So we had like 3 bands, 13, 16 and 18.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to ban certain elements and certain sites and certain social platforms for different age bands. So under 13, under 16 and under 18. And then we did like some sort of a sample testing with the some sort of a sample testing with the Australian population to try and understand how well this age assurance works. And then we just sort of analyzed or evaluated a couple of age assurance technology providers and then created this criteria to you have to meet this criteria to be as an age assurance technology provider for Australia. So I was building that in that specific
that
project.
Sounds like a pretty large project, by the way. That wasn't that must have been what, a 12 or 18 month project, was it? Yeah.
So I was actively working in that project for about 6 to 8 months. I was mainly just work in the proposing the method, what sort of a statistical significance should be there, and what sort of a statistical method we should use to like create this evaluation criteria, and then also look into different standards, ISO standards, and different compliance and regulations. I was in meetings with the commissioner, the Australian commissioner, and few important people, and that was a good experience for me.
So let me ask you this then: with all these great contacts that you've met, have you had any people in your career? I know you're very young, but have you had any people in your career who have been a great influence on you?
Yes, I think I've met like few people. The very first people, one of the very first person that I just met was Imal, who's a Sri Lankan, and then I just saw him as a role model because he actually got out from Sri Lanka and then went to Singapore and then built his entire career across the Asia Pacific region, and he worked for big organizations like HP and all that. So I met him when I was at SLIT, which is the private university that I went to, and then I was competing, as I told you, for Imagine Cup, and then he was in the judge panel, and then he saw how I presented myself, and then it's like, okay, this lad seems to be doing something that he likes about, and then he picked me up from there and then asked me.
He offered you a job, did he?
Yeah, he just asked me like, do you want to come and work for me?
Yeah.
And at that time I was doing two degrees, and it was a bit of a hard time for me to like, jump into another job. And I was obviously playing rugby as well. So I told him like, just give me 6 to 8 months and then I'll finish off one of my degrees and then I'll come and work for you. And then that was the very first job that I just did. I was working as a business analyst and a little bit combined role with data scientist.
Yes.
That was a company called Lenzinga, and that just opened my eyes a lot towards the data field, AI field, the machine learning field. And then we were chasing something called Industrial 4.0. And it was a big experience for me because I was about 22 or 23. And then I saw Imal as a giant who's a Sri Lankan who just went out and then just did something, and then he later on he just sold the company for like 15 million US dollars, and doing that from Sri Lanka.
So let me ask you this then, because this is completely politically incorrect and it's probably insensitive, but I will ask you, and it's not a racist comment, right? So you're a wonderful young lad. You grew up in Sri Lanka. I'm going to call you working class. Let's use the British and Irish cliche, right? Working class. You come to Australia, you get a PhD, and now you're kicking, and you're one of the top young entrepreneurs, right? I mean, what do you do to get to? Let's give some of our wonderful young people advice. You must have been knocked around a bit a couple of times, hey?
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of rejections, right?
Yeah, okay.
You get a lot of rejections, and then you need to know how to handle your emotions, I guess, and then also when to speak, when not to speak, and learning the manners, how to present yourself, and how to talk.
Yeah,
and then handling your emotional intelligence along with your intellectual capability is something very important, because sometimes you see people who are highly intellectual, but they don't know when to speak and when not to speak, because sometimes they don't really understand, the common caliber around that situation, I guess. For me, I think the most important thing was the obsession that I had towards what I did and what I do and what I will do, right? So I always say, like, when I've been lecturing as well, right? So I've been.
Oh, so where do you find that? So where do you find time to do lecturing? Is there 24 hours in your day, or do you run on a different clock or something? Quite incredible.
No, I used to lecture at University of Wollongong and then did some brief lecturing at UNSW as well. So there I was teaching lots of young students,
yes,
master students and bachelor students in the fields of data science and business analytics and so on. So that's also a question that I always get, like, how do you do what you do, and how do you have that passion, and why do you like it so much, or how to get to where you are and things like that, right?
I'm very happy for you to answer that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's just 4 things. I think my My supervisor told me this once as well. Like, you just need to find something that you're really good at, and then you just need to make sure you actually love it. So you're good at this, you love this, and then you need to make sure you can make money out of this, and then you need to make sure
Are
your
you
world
implying that
needs
you
it.
shouldn't breed racehorses? Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, because you can't make a quid out of it. Yeah, okay.
So that's
Yeah.
actually called Ikigai, which is like a Japanese thing. But I mean, I'm not the best once it comes to like explaining the theories of it.
Once again, I'm learning. Let me ask you this question, because I'm fascinated by this on the basis that Tyrone and I are building the channel for all our wonderful young people. You strike me as a very natural lad, right? All the soft skills, are you telling that you know, reading the room and all, did you know all that, or is that an evolutionary process for you?
I mean,
I'm serious. Yeah.
I had no one to tell me like what to do and what not to do. So I sort of learned that through the experience, like, when people shut you off and when you don't really get the expected outcome or the results, then you just sort of realize, okay, that's something that you shouldn't have done in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So I just sort of learned in the hard way. I didn't really have like, someone who was there to like, mentor me each and every time, even though I had like really great mentors in my life. So it's very important, to like have that eagerness to present yourself and then go out and then just do something, right? And then there's going to be a lot of time that people just gonna you know try to turn you off, try to get over you and try to shut you off. So you just have to get through these things. I think that's just something that you have to do, right?
And therefore, now that you guys are building a business, now I'm going to talk to you about being an entrepreneur in a second, but I'm curious again, you're now in a leadership role.
Yeah.
So have you learned a lot there from all your, why you're a good leader then? What does leadership mean to you? And because a couple of the kids in your team, every time I see, they always say that they're in awe of you, but in a nice way. What have you learned and why you're a good leader?
I think I just learned a lot from the sport.
Yeah.
I think sports actually do like a significant change in your life.
Yeah.
Especially if you just play like a team sport. You learn how to work with people. You learn how to do a game plan. You know how to nurture yourself under a leader. And then once you get into a leadership position, you know how to carry a team.
Yes.
So those things, you can easily learn these things as a kid if you just do sport, right? And then once you come into the corporate world or startup world or a scale-up world, even though it's not a game, it's just sort of like you are working with people again.
Yes.
Right. And then all that experience that you gain through all these hardships that you went through are directly applicable in the real world, because you get to work with like emotional beings, right? If you just bully someone when you're a kid, that person's just gonna get hurt, right? And when you just come to real world, if you bully someone, that person also gonna get hurt, right?
Yes.
So a lot of things that you learn as a kid can directly influence how you live your life when you're an adult. And I think I just learned a lot of leadership qualities and how to work with people during my childhood, right? With the sports and working in different societies, clubs, doing drama, all these things, right?
Oh, so sorry, were you acting on stage as well?
Jesus, that was a long time ago.
The next thing you'll be up in front of the Oscars in Bollywood or something. So the message that I'm getting from you, funny enough, and I love it because of the career guidance channel, is that what you're saying to young people is that we've got all the technical skills, lads, but let's not forget to develop our soft skills. Is that the message that you're giving us?
Yeah, that's very important. I think, 80% of the job is working with people.
Yeah.
20% of it is just mainly, your brain and how you use a skill. Even though you could be like the most skillful guy,
yes,
if you don't know how to work with people, your skills won't matter, because people wouldn't resonate with you. People wouldn't know how to influence you or to listen to you or to work with you. So it's very important. I mean, even if you're like a mediocre or like a moderately skillful guy, and if you are really good with like people, you could go like a long way compared to a highly skillful guy with, no human interaction at all. Right?
Yes.
So I think it's working with people is very important.
So therefore, once again, let's look at learnings for people, young people. What's the three greatest things you've learned then in business in the last couple of years?
Three greatest things.
It can be 10 if you want. Once again, I want you to show all those wonderful young people that they can all do, not necessarily what you do, but I want you to be a good example to them, right? That's the moral, if you like, of the podcast. Yeah.
I think love what you do, like have that eagerness and passion towards what you do. That's very important. Otherwise, every Sunday is just gonna feel like a horrible day, and every Friday is just gonna feel like, a marvelous day because you just get to the weekend. So having that passion and eagerness is very important. And then having a low ego in a corporate world is, I think, that could help you go a long way. Like ability to learn from someone, regardless who that person is. Could be like a CEO or an intern. I mean, in the same situation in my company as well, like I learn from my interns, and because they bring stuff to me and I'm like, okay, let me sit down with you and let me figure out what are you doing here. So ability to learn and being passionate, and then I think being smart about the way you work rather than being hardworking. I mean, rather than you do hardworking all the time, like trying to find the smart ways.
That's you've led me into a path that I've been thinking about while I'm talking to you here. Is that you strike me as your head goes like a computer. Therefore, my question is, when you're talking about working smart and not hard, I'm going to throw that against you for your own personal development as well. Are you well organized then?
Yeah, I'm sort of organized. Like I wouldn't say like super OCD, but I'm well organized once it comes to what I have to do with my life.
Yes.
Like I think any person, I think every person should do it, because I mean I had that dilemma when I was doing 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Because I had too many tasks to do and a limited amount of time, right? So I learned something called time boxing, which is like sort of, you box the time to do a task, and if you, regardless whether you get it done or whether you don't finish it, you just allocate that time for it, and then you just go to the next task after. So for me, I mean, back then I didn't have like a phone or a proper laptop or anything at all, but I had a big sheet in my wallet which says what I have to do, when I have to do, and for which degree.
Yes. Yeah.
So that allowed me to like, put my head into the right place and then get things done. I think anyone could. It's not multitasking. Multitasking is like I think people just comprehend it like inaccurately, not correctly. The reason is people think it's just doing multiple things at the same time. No, it's not. It's about doing multiple things in allocated time frames so you can get done like multiple things at the same time. For the outer world, it feels like, okay, you're actually doing like multiple things at the same time. No, you're not, because you know how to allocate which time for which task, so you actually get things done.
Yeah. What about your personal development then? I mean, is that once again, I'm curious, is that on an ad hoc basis, or do you give yourself goals every year? Once again, let's try and give some examples to some of the young people watching that, how do you go about your personal development?
So for me, personal development is few things. I think your career is one thing.
Yeah.
And then your physical health, and then your mental health. Those are very important pillars. For mental health, I think, I mean, believe it or not, I'm a Buddhist, so I just try to do a little bit of meditation here and there. But for me, it's more like, doing something active that just makes me engaged. That's sort of like a meditation for me. Either swim or cycle or go to gym or something like that. That just helps you like, find the work-life balance. And especially, I mean, even though I'm a CDO, I still like to the day I still code a lot, right? So and when you're stuck in a problem, the next big thing that I would do is just take a break. If I'm stuck on something, take a break.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk,
Yeah.
or just go for a quick swim. Go to sauna, take an ice bath, whatever. Then come back and then just have a look at it. You're more likely to solve that problem compared to how you were.
I'm going to ask you this, even though you're young. Where does sleep come into your? Do you sleep? I mean, once again, we're trying to give young people good habits. Are you an all-nighter? Do you sit up all night when you're
Yeah,
obsessed with
that's why I got like all these dark circles. I'm not really a good sleeper, but I'm just now investing more and more time into sleep. I used to sleep quite less, especially when I was young. But, once you come into your 30s, you sort of realize, you're not the same.
Yeah.
So now I just tend to sleep a bit more. And everyone around me pushes me to sleep a bit more, which is a good thing. My wife and my friends and everyone call you don't sleep well. You just need to sleep a little bit more. I think sleep is very important, and have that sleep hygiene is very important. I think regardless who you are, right?
Let's once again talk about traits and careers. What's your biggest weakness?
I think
you strike me as a guy that can't say no to anybody.
No, I've got a few weaknesses. I think I get distracted sometimes, quite easily. It's something that that happens in AI field as well, because there's something new comes up all the time, right? You just get a good LLM, and then after 2 weeks or so, there's a new one comes up, which is far better than the older one, right? And so once you start hitting objectives, once you start doing things, you just need to adapt to something and then start doing it, right? And then just because the new thing comes up, you shouldn't get distracted. So that happens to me sometimes. So that's why I'm just trying to set my mind to something and then just try to do it, rather than going back and forth with some sort of a theory or something that could be enhanced, because you could get carried away and then you wouldn't be able to do the thing in the first place, right? So that distraction is there. I think that's one of the weaknesses. And I think this is also something that I noticed. I just try to delay the shipments sometimes of a work just because I want to make it a little bit more perfect. Right. I think as a CTO, that's also something that I learned, to ship faster. You can get things perfect later on. But if it's working, if it's something that's actually creating value right now, instead of just waiting till you make it perfect, just ship first and then you can make it perfect later on. So those are two main weaknesses that I could think of here.
Now, I'm going to ask you a couple more because I could be here all day, but I'm going to then hit you with a question for our wonderful young people at the end. So, you're now an entrepreneur. What have you learned commercially in the last 3 to 5 years?
I think networking is very important.
Okay. Yeah.
Networking is very important, and regardless which industry where you're coming from, talking to people, understanding different trajectories and how to position your business, that's very important. And also if you just go and talk to investors or employees or candidates or anyone, I think it's very important that you just understand how things work commercially, investor to invest his money in, and then what's the risk associated with it.
Yes.
And then because we technical people, we don't really put lots of time and effort into understanding how the flywheel works, and how one pillar just supports the other, and how it's just like a force to move forward. So we just need to make sure that when we work with people, you just need to understand what sort of commercial value that each person brings in, right? When you just hire a candidate, that's also a commercial decision, right? And when you just go out and talk to an investor and then try to put a value for your business, that's also a commercial decision.
Yes.
And when you just try to walk into a bank and then try to finance something, that's also a commercial decision, right? And then I think in the last couple of years, how each and everything reflects for a business and how each and everything connects and affect each and everything is something that I learned, like, your hiring decisions, how that's just going to affect your return on investments, or whether it's just going to help you break even and what's the value. And once you figure that out, once you figure out how that flywheel works, it's easier for you to just position your business and then just, move forward, I guess.
So when we look at that, right, I mean, have you now therefore worked out, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but I mean, has Codera, for example, now worked out the ROI it can give to its clients? Are you a bit more watertight on that? Sometimes technical lads have got the best technology in the planet.
Yeah.
Why should anybody buy Codera, I suppose? That's my question. Yeah.
So end of the day, like, let's think about, any business, right? And let's think about you, John, right? So as a career coach, you want more people coming into you to get some sort of a career guidance from you, right? And that means you just need to convert that attention into paying customers, if that's the right wording. Attention into paying customers, right? So how do you get this attention, right? So if you just think about, like, any actress, right? Why do we look into, like, oh, that actress looks really good? Why? Because she's shiny and she wears a certain thing, right? And any business is like that. If that business is shiny and if that business is attractive, all the eyeballs just gonna turn towards that business. That's what I call as attention, right? And when you look into this attention doesn't really reflect as paying customers, right? First, you just need to get the attention, right? So if you build a nice shiny body, everyone's going to look at you, right? So that's the attention.
Yes.
So for a business, that attention is what I call as AI search optimization. So when you do that AI search optimization, you get more attention through LLMs, through AI search. When people looks for different products and services, if you are the business who provides that product or service, you'll come up as the answer. So that means we just create a mechanism for your customers to find you because we create that attention to your business. But just because that attention is there doesn't mean that you're going to make money out of it, right? Right? You just need to convert that attention into something. Right? Just because you have a flashy body doesn't mean that you can actually make money out of it. So that means you need to go out and do modeling, right?
Yeah.
You need to go out and do something. So that means even though you are the recommended product or service, or even though you are the recommended business, you still need to give like a good service and a good product to your customer. And then you just need to, like, turn that flywheel, just keep moving forward, right? So you just turn that attention and then get that attention into, like, proper products and services that you sell. And then you just keep doing that. So what we have in Codera is our second vertical, which we call as ComOps. So ComOps actually helps businesses to turn this attention into paying leads.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So we have actually, partnered up with like a company called Cinch. They're a $3 billion worth company. And then there, what we do is we just try to automate the communication channel. And that includes like automating the messages and attention that we get through Meta, then WhatsApp, SMS. We're actually starting with SMS, but what we're doing there is just actually converting this attention or turning this attention into meaningful conversations, and then these meaningful conversations will eventually turn into paying leads, right? So paying customers.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the whole flywheel.
I'm going to hit you with two questions to conclude.
Yeah.
And you've no idea what they are, right? So my first question is, if I phoned your mom, what would she say about you?
What?
If I phoned your mother,
Yeah.
now, what would she say about you?
She would say I'm a stubborn kid.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a stubborn, hardworking kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she would say. I've been stubborn my entire life, I guess. But she just kept my head down and created a low ego. Yeah, she's very happy where I am now, and yeah.
Last question for you then. I normally say to people, what advice have you got for young people? I'm going to twist this a little bit because I really do admire you more than anything. So, what do you want young people to think of you? If a young person met you and you were standing up the chin wag with them, what would you like them to come away with after talking to you?
I think if I can do what I did, anyone should be able to do it. That's what I think.
Yes.
If you have the passion towards what you do, and if you have like the eagerness and willingness to learn and to work with people, I think you can easily build your career and then gain a lot of value out of it. And then end of the day, you'll be able to happy.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy a lot. You'll enjoy your career. And
by the way, just on that, you guys obviously present at conferences, do you enjoy mixing with young people? Do you enjoy trying to give them encouragement and all that sort of stuff?
100%, 100%. I love encouraging people and supporting people and helping them out, create jobs. I think entrepreneurs create jobs, not wealthy people, I guess, right? So I love all that, and then just helping out the younger generation as well as just mentoring them as much as we can.
Yeah, no, I'm delighted. No, you were a bit nervous coming in and you're wearing your big rugby jersey and all that. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, 100%.
You enjoy the chat?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Great.
Can I just say, ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you are in the world, this young lad is an absolute treasure. He is one of the nicest, well-mannered and smartest young lads I've had the pleasure of dealing with. I've already helped him in his career. But the thing I like most about Dr. Koliya is that he's a lad with a high degree of integrity. And he always makes people feel welcome when he talks to them, and nobody has ever walked away from him without feeling good about himself. This is Inspiring Careers. This is the old fogey John Waters, and we shall see you in a month. Thank you. Bye.